Good morning, good morning. It is Friday, the 11th of October, 2024, and you are watching Morning Brew on Politics Social, and I'm Graham Hughes. Hello, hello everyone in the chat. Hello, we've got Nick and Diff in there, we've got Billy Kershaw, we've got Patrick H, we've got Ivan in there, we've got Rob is in there, Siskin Edge. Everyone's in there today. David is in there, we've got Martin, we've got Pete's Music, Emma Price, Viv Burgess. Hello and welcome. If anyone wants to join in who's not been part of this before, feel free. We're open to everyone, as long as you're not a troll. Just hit the subscribe button and wait for 30 seconds and you'll be able to join in with the chat. But don't be horrible because you'll get kicked out. Unless you want to be horrible about right-wingers, because I'm just going to have a massive go at them today. I'm going to be quite unpolitically correct when I say the things I'm going to say. I'm going to be quite unwoke, okay? Yeah? I'm going to take it out on the people who didn't pay attention in school and who are now ruining the lives of the people who did. That's what they're doing, and I am absolutely sick to death of it. But before we get into that, we're going to go over to Scott Walton, who has dropped £5 into the kitty. Thank you very much for the super chat there, Scott. And Scott says, did anyone listen to the newsagents yesterday? This Tory drama is comedy gold. I didn't listen to it, but oh no, maybe I did. I saw a clip of it. I didn't listen to the whole thing, but where they were talking about James Cleverly falling out of the Tory conference. So there's two things that I want to concentrate on today. So let's talk about them first, and then we're just going to talk about what we can do about the situation that we're in which morons seem to dictate how the rest of us are allowed to live. So the first one is obviously the Tory leadership contest. And let me just be the first, well, not the first. Let me be the 1 millionth person to go, what? Maybe the 70 millionth person to go, what? So what happened was, there's about 120 Tory MPs left. Not many, right? So in order to go through to the next stage of voting, which is done by the Tory masses, the Tory hordes, the members of the Tory party, whether they are here in the UK or whether they're in Russia or Saudi Arabia or Australia or Tuvalu or Comoros or Santo Tomé and Principe, doesn't matter. You could be anywhere in the world and still somehow be a member of the Tory party and choose who the leader is. And in cases when the leader is the Prime Minister, these people from other countries who have never lived here and have no association with Britain whatsoever get to vote on who our Prime Minister is, because that's the system that the Tories have set up, because they love democracy so much. They'll tell you every time you mention Brexit being a bit undemocracy, they say, no, that is the proof of democracy. It was a landslide win. 52%. That's a landslide. I'm like, that's not a landslide. That's like a little tiny bit of rubble slipping a couple of inches. That is not a landslide. But anyway, so there's the system they are set up. But before we get to that, that's got to be a head-to-head. There's going to be Kemi Badenoch, who's a criminal, and Robert Jenrick, who's a criminal. Both of them violated the law when Kemi Badenoch, back in 2008, she hacked into Harriet Harman's into her website, and which is against the law. That is against the law, and she admitted to doing it. And also, then you got Robert Jenrick, who met up with porn and property developer Richard Desmond, and they thrashed out a deal worth millions, and made it so that 40 million of those millions weren't paid to the good people of Tower Hamlets, where the development was going to be built, because Robert Jenrick sorted it out for him, something that was deemed unlawful. It was unlawful. Apparently there's some kind of difference between something being illegal and unlawful. Sounds the same to me, but what do I know? I'm just an idiot. Anyway, talking of idiots, James Cleverly, the man who just proves that nominative determinism is bullshit. He's the MP for Braintree. So the Brain Trust, Mr. Cleverly, decided to try and game the system. So he will be up against Jenrick, because he thought, I'll beat him easily. Kemi Badenoch, I'm not quite sure. So he got some of the people who said, I'm going to vote for you, once Tuggin Hat dropped out the race. He said, no, don't vote for me. Vote for Jenrick, and then I'll be fighting against Jenrick. But he didn't do his maths, you see, because 120 is a very big number to be able to divide into 3 and work out how many votes you would need out of that in order to go through to the next round. And Jimmy Dimley decided that 38 votes were enough, 38, which is less than a third. So there's 3 of yous running for that particular office, and you need at least 40 votes realistically to get through to the next round. Yeah, making sure that only 38 people vote for you. Maybe he forgot to vote for himself. I mean, but the Tories are well and truly foobarred because they're going to have an idiot in charge. I mean, as opposed to the other idiot who is James Cleverly. I mean, they're all idiots. They're all awful. They're all privately educated dickheads. That's not the point. The point is that his scheme failed miserably and hilariously. It's absolutely freaking hilarious. Anyway, but yeah, now we're going to be stuck with either Kemi Badenoch or with Robert Jenrick for the next 4 years, standing up every week in PMQs, going, "Why are you so woke? Why are you so woke? Why don't we pull out the European Court of Human Rights? Why are we so woke?" And to them I say this: the European Court of Human Rights, European Convention of Human Rights, is the only thing keeping you out of the mental asylum. Like back in the day, and here's where I'm going to be not very politically correct, when I was a kid, if people were that stupid, they were deemed a menace to society through their own stupidity. We would lock them away. And in essential prisons, I mean, the cells were padded, but they were basically prisons. A lot of people thought this was horrible. And yes, it was. We didn't just put people who were really, really stupid in these places. We put the disabled in these places. We put single mothers in these places for having children out of wedlock. That's something that genuinely happened. Yes. And yeah, not a great way of doing things. So in the 1990s, the Tory government at the time brought in Care in the Community because they wanted to shut down all of these asylums, mental health hospitals in which the inmates were treated like prisoners. And this was a good thing. All in all, you know, at the time, people complained about it and there were lots of jokes. Whenever you'd meet someone who was particularly stupid, you would say, "Oh, Care in the Community." Anyway, so here we are, 30 years later, and it does seem like that wasn't the best of ideas. I mean, letting the single mums out, okay, yeah, I see that, and the disabled, fair enough. And there's a lot of deaf people that were put into mental asylums because they were deaf. I mean, how dare you be deaf? You can stay in this padded cell for the rest of your life. This is something that the Queen did to her own family, or knew that happened to her own family, who I assume were so inbred that they ended up having some difficulties. And instead of, I don't know, looking after them on one of their massive estates, they locked them away in an asylum. Not very politically correct. Not very politically correct. Not very woke. Not very woke. But they don't want us to be woke. That's the thing. The very things that these people want to happen would see them put in an institution. This is the politicians and the voters who vote for it. And I'm going to go over to the States for a moment to give an example. So this week on Facebook, I've actually seen people, in all sincerity, sharing memes that the first hurricane, Helene, not Milton, but Helene, was created by Joe Biden to go to North Carolina. Not a place where hurricanes normally hang out, but somehow they managed to get this hurricane to go to North Carolina. As if by magic. Maybe they got Storm from the X-Men helping them out. Okay, but why would you want to do that? Well, because North Carolina votes Republican. No, it doesn't. It's 50-50. It's had a Democratic governor recently. I mean, a Democrat governor. And then this next whirlwind, this next typhoon, this next hurricane, Milton, went through the middle of Florida, which has voted Republicans every time for the last, 10, 20 years? So it's been a long time since they've voted anyone but Republican. So why smash through there? I don't. Okay, but anyway, so, right, Milton. Leave that aside for one moment. Helene, right. So it went up to western North Carolina, to a place called Asheville. And it killed a lot of people because in that area, there is no hurricane preparedness. Like, it doesn't get hurricanes. The buildings aren't built to withstand hurricanes. Like, it's bizarre. And the water levels on the rivers went crazy. And a lot of because it's up in the mountains, a lot of the roads follow the rivers. This is normal mountain stuff. If you live in a mountainous areas, your roads will usually follow the rivers. So if the rivers then rise up, like, twice or 3 times or 4 times their usual height, a lot of people are going to face big, big difficulties. So, okay. So he sent this hurricane to Asheville and to this rock. There's a big rock there that's quite famous. And he sent it there. Why has he done that? Well, because the people of Asheville, right, were saying that they didn't want a lithium mine 90 miles away. And so what Biden did, even though he's not going to be president in a couple of months' time, and a mining operation is quite a big thing that takes a long time, 90 miles away. Can I just explain to you how mad this is, right? This lithium mine, 90 miles away, which is going to open or reopen. And some local people in Asheville didn't want this, apparently. And so Biden sent a hurricane to kill them to death with high winds and high water because they were objecting to a lithium mine. He killed Americans in order to... So 90 miles is the distance from Liverpool to Coventry. Okay? Okay, just 1 second, okay? Just imagine for a moment you met someone on a park bench and they sat next to you, probably, talked a little bit too close, bit of a close talker, yeah, bit of a heavy breather, and they told you in all earnestness that Keir Starmer created a tornado in Perth in Scotland. And then he drove that tornado across the country all the way to Liverpool. Right? And then he had it rip through Liverpool. Just take out random houses as it blasted a path through Liverpool. In order to stop the people of Liverpool objecting to the building of a quarry or the quarrying of a quarry in Coventry. Okay. These people walk amongst us. And the question I have for you is, should they? I mean, let's just put political correctness aside for a moment. If you're that stupid, should you be allowed to roam the streets? Or, even worse, in the case of America, should you be able to vote on who the most powerful person in the world is next month? Yeah, the person who's in control of the biggest working nuclear arsenal in the world. In the actual mother effing world. Oh my God. Oh my God. OMG. Ivan, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the super chat. I was in hospital in 2019 when my mental illness was at its worst. I'm sorry to hear that, mate. Not good places for any patients, but particularly not for autistic patients. I can completely understand that, mate. I completely get it. And, I am being a bit facetious when I'm saying, what should we do with these people? These people who are like proper dickheads, but also have a lot of control over our lives. Hence Brexit, Boris Johnson, and now Donald Trump looking like he is going to win this election and become the 47th president of the United States of America after already being the 45th. I always think when you see the 45 to 47 on the caps, I think is that the range of the IQ. It's magical thinking, says Siska Edge. I really worry about the sanity of too many Americans. Calm, Graham, breathe, says Viv. Vendetta. Just have an IQ test before being allowed to vote. Well, we can't really do that. We can't. And we can't lock people up. We don't have the resources. We don't have the people to look after them. We don't have the buildings. We don't have enough buildings for our prisoners. Never mind people who are a bit thick. But you know what I would like to see? Okay? And I'll get into what your suggestions are in a moment. But what I'd like to see is this. We stop being nice. We stop suffering fools gladly. When someone posts something on a social media thing, we need to be there going, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, were you kicked in the head by a horse? Seriously? What is wrong with you? Because what the internet has done, and I've said this before, it has normalized stupidity. It has normalized magical thinking. So, yeah, someone from a village in Cumbria, back in the day, the village idiot, the literal village idiot, will go into the pub and say, I think the world is flat. And everyone in the pub would say, shut up, dickhead. You're buying the next round for being so fucking stupid. That's what happened. Now, they go on the internet. I think the world is flat. Climate change is a hoax. Lithium mines. And they find someone on the other side of the world who agrees with them. Who goes, yeah, you're right. Instead of the people in the pub, the people in the local community saying, no, what the hell are you on about? Are you mad? No. We get someone going, no, that's absolutely right. The world is flat. We need to wear tinfoil hats. And those children who all got massacred in that big massacre, yeah, they were just pretending to be dead. Yes, they were actors pretending to be dead. And their parents who have been grieving for the last 15 years, they're just pretending to be grieving. They're not really grieving. They're crisis actors. They're just pretending every day for the rest of their lives. And there's a lot of causal factors in this. I think lead is a big thing in this. I also think cannabis is. And I know I'm going to piss some people off in the chat by saying this, but let me just say it. I have, not everyone who smokes loads of weed is a conspiracy theorist, but I am yet to meet a conspiracy theorist who doesn't smoke loads of weed. I think it does something to your critical faculties. We know it does something to your brain. It, changes your brain chemistry in some way. And I think part of the problem with long-term cannabis use is, knackers your critical faculties. Makes you willing to believe anything. Just like ups the naivety levels. Oh yeah, that sounds plausible. Yeah, I can see why the President of the United States would send a hurricane to North Carolina to stop people complaining about a mine 100 miles away. I'm going to upset people in the chat now. I'm done now for super chats. I love weed. The best system is this: one man, one vote. Vietnam's the man, so he got the vote. Number three, I sent a strong email about CCS to my Labour MP. I don't really know what CCS is. Ben Riddings says, "Don't worry, the polls are in Kamala's favour, only slightly, but still in favour of it in the swing states." Ben, she's not going to win. I'm sorry to be a Debbie Downer about this, but she's not going to win. Because she needs to be 3 points ahead. This has happened in all the polls. She needs to be 3 points ahead. And she's not. Biden was massively, some swing states, he was like 7-8 points ahead. But he only won by like 1%. Because the polls were so out. Because people lie, people lie. They just go, I'm not voting for Trump. Yeah, he's a lunatic. And then they get into the polling booth and they go, Trump. Let's see what happens, eh? My life is so boring. My spouse is so minging. My kids are so much of a disappointment. I want the whole world to end. I'm going to vote for Trump. Some people don't know how lucky they are. If we live in the Golden Village, why do we have more than one village idiot? Says Mike. Yes, that's very true. It makes politicians think they can dance in Scottish nightclubs. That's cocaine. So that was the other thing I was going to say. When it comes to the voters, I kind of blame cannabis a bit, not totally. Like I say, there's some idiots out there who never touched it, right? But mad conspiracy theorists, I always go, so do you have a close relationship with your weed dealer? And they're like, yeah, I do actually. Yeah, first name terms, yeah. It's on my speed dial on my phone. Not that we have speed dial anymore. Everyone's just on speed dial, I guess, these days. But, oh God, speed dial, that used to be a thing. You could only have 10 numbers, couldn't you? Speed dial 1. Them were the days. The pizza place. Anyway, moving on. So I genuinely think that cocaine for the political class has caused a lot of the problems that we're seeing today all over the world, because these narcissistic lunatics, cocaine is the narcissist drug. Like, if you are already a little bit full of yourself, a little bit, I the fucking bee's knees, and you take cocaine, it just amps it up to the max. It is just narcissism on steroids. Less about you, more about me. Me. Let me corner you in a party and just talk at you endlessly about myself. Yes, this is what you need to know. Well, the person that they're talking to is literally crying tears of boredom and cannot escape like an unlucky cat caught in Pepe Le Pew's clutches. Jesus, we've all been there. Right, anyway, moving on. Stoners tend to gather together and then we moan about the cruelty and insanity of the world. It's difficult to explain all that shit. Well, I mean, that's something that we do on this show. We do. No cannabis needed. But yeah, I like gathering around and complaining about the world. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a politics channel in which we literally gather around and complain about the shit in the world. The professor who predicted the last 7 elections correctly says it will be Kamala. Whether Trump sets off a civil war in response is another matter, says Viv. Yeah, but the professor was wrong in 2000 when he predicted that Al Gore would win. And he didn't. Why? Because of a late intervention by the Supreme Court that told Florida, that was currently counting the votes, and they were down to less than 500 votes between Al Gore and George W. Bush. Less than 500 votes, and the numbers for Gore were going up incrementally. They only needed to count the votes for another couple of days when the Supreme Court said, stop counting the votes. And rather than cause a constitutional crisis, Al Gore said, okay, then fair enough. I'm not going to go up against the Supreme Court. Now, my friends, what do you think they're going to do this year? Come on. That was when it was just a Supreme Court with some liberals and some conservatives. Now, it is a Supreme Court with 6 absolute swivel-eyed MAGA lunatics on it, who will be on it for a very long time. Well, I mean, 2 of them are going to retire if Trump wins, and Trump's going to put some 40 or 50-year-olds in, so they are on the bench, sitting as absolute divine right monarchs of the American political system, of American law. They define the law. So if America, if the politicians pass a law that says abortion is legal, they are the people who can interpret it to say, well, did they actually mean abortion? And the people who drafted the legislation can say, yes, we did. And they can say, well, we don't think that you did because we interpret the word abortion differently. And we're interpreting it to mean every baby should be handed an AR-15 at birth, because that's what we think abortion means for some reason. And there's no one to take us to task. There is no oversight. Did you ever see the movie Civil War? Not the recent one, the Marvel one. Yeah, Civil War. Yeah. What was the problem in that? What were they complaining about? Oh, oversight. Yeah. Who has oversight of the superheroes? Do they have to bend to the will of the UN? Well, I think that they should. I don't think they should be a law unto themselves. I think that everyone should have oversight. I think the king should have oversight. And the king is supposed to have oversight. That being Parliament. Parliament is sovereign in this country, not the sovereign. Isn't that interesting? It's the way it's set up. But the army swear allegiance to the king. They don't swear allegiance to Parliament. So even though Parliament is sovereign, it doesn't control the army. Do you know who does control the army? The commander-in-chief of the army in America. And who's the commander-in-chief? It is the president. So not only do they get to pick who gets to be on the Supreme Court and in federal courts all across the land, they also get to choose, who's in charge of the FBI, who's in charge of the CIA, who's in charge of the Department of Justice. Maybe just get rid of the Department of Justice, who's in charge of FEMA. Maybe just get rid of FEMA. Maybe just get rid of the Department of Education, which is something that Trump wants to do. Because he'll have the power. Because the American presidential system is not fit for purpose. It is insane. It is an insane system that has led to countries that have copied that system around the world devolving into dictatorships. Not great. Stupid way of doing it. But I've no doubts now. I think Trump's going to win. Duty of candor, politics social, screams Donkey. Yes. That's coming in. The Hillsborough Law. I don't know what you want me to say about it. It's good. I want it. We need a Hillsborough Law in which public servants are forced to tell the truth instead of covering for their bosses. Christopher Bowles, the Electoral College makes US national polling difficult to interpret. Harris's people seem nervous. That's all I see. Yeah, they are nervous because they know they're going to lose. Even if she wins the popular vote, and even if she technically wins in a few of those swing states, they're going to gum up the process. Trump has put his people into the voting booth, not voting booths, but the polling stations. He's put his own people into the polling stations, MAGA people in the polling stations, and they have been given a booklet which tells them how to basically challenge anyone who wants to vote. If they're, I don't know, black, or they look gay, or they look like they might vote Democrats. So if you do have any American friends who are intending to vote for Democrats, especially if they live in a swing state, please implore them to buy themselves MAGA hat and walk into the polling station. Probably have to take it off when you go in, but put it under their arm so that the people in the actual polling station believe they're going to vote for Trump, and then they'll be left alone. They won't be hassled, because if there's a legal query on whether someone should be allowed to vote or not, by the time that's gone through the courts, the election will be long gone, over, gone, complete, and Trump will be president for the rest of his life, which is the plan. Duty of candor should be applied to politics. Easiest way to get rid of the fash for good. That is a very good point, Hornets. Maybe that's what Donkey was saying. Sorry, Donkey, I thought you were just shouting random things at me. But yes, it should be for all public servants, and that should include politicians. Ned says, I've said for years, in many ways, the US is a third world country. It's wealthy and powerful, but in other ways, it's like an underdeveloped country. It is. I mean, like the amount of poverty in America, the amount of people living on the streets is absolutely gobsmacking. When I was in LA back in December 2013, I was walking, I was round the corner from that road, where all the stars are on the pavements. I was walking around the corner from there, and it was near Mann's Chinese Theatre, where they often the Kodak Theatre, sorry, where they often hold the Oscars, right? And there's a subway station there nearby, an underground station, and I remember walking down into the underground, and there's a big ramp going down, and there was a guy sitting at the side, and he had the most horrific burns to his face, like Freddy Krueger, okay? And this guy was at the side of the thing, walkway, and he had a little cardboard sign that said, "Burnt in fire, please help." And I've seen that kind of thing in Kinshasa, in New Delhi, in Cairo, in developing nations around the world. I've seen that sort of thing. I've seen disabled people on the streets begging. Europe? You don't see that. I mean, we get a lot of homeless people in the UK, yeah. But if you were in need of medical attention, as this guy clearly was, you'll be getting that medical attention. So yeah, America is like a third world country in many respects. It always stays at me. Round the corner from where they hold the bloody Oscars. Do you know what I mean? Where all the people who go to the Oscars are given these Gucci goodie bags with like 30 grand's worth of sweets or something in them, gold diamonds, rings. He's given to millionaires, given to people who are already rich, because obviously they're not rich enough. Maggie Pie, thank you very much for the super chat. The 20 Swedish krona, that'll go down nicely, thank you. Trump and MAGA are a threat to democracy. They're the end of democracy in America. The end of democracy in Ukraine as well, and Taiwan and other countries that are just going to get absolutely walloped when Trump's nativist, protectionist, America first policy kicks in, and they retreat from the world, which is the plan. Ivan, thank you very much. As discussed before, there should be competence tests and set standards as requirements for selecting political candidates. Thanks very much, Ivan. Phil will argue against this, and maybe we could bring this up later, actually, in the agenda at 1:00. But I think that as well. I think that there should be some, like if you've got to drive a car, you've got to take a test, right? If you want to start working somewhere, you generally have like a period where you kind of probationary working. If you want to be a cab driver, you got to learn how to drive, and then if you're a London cab driver, apparently you've got to have the knowledge of every street in London. But you need some qualifications. The only jobs that I can think of that I kind of like, you really, really should know what you're doing, and yet you need no qualifications whatsoever, being a parent, being a prostitute, or being a politician. They're the three industries that we have. I know parenting shouldn't be an industry, but it is. I mean, it's a job. It's a full-time job. And if you mess it up, you are helping mess up society. Because if your, noxious little crotch spawn decides to go out and commit murders, I kind of slightly blame the parents on this. I mean, sometimes, parents bring up their kids with all the love and respect in the world, and they still turn out to be wrong uns. But there are a number of children who grow up to be psychopaths, and the parents abuse them. The parents treated them like shit growing up. What did you expect? What did you think was going to happen? And in cases like that, I think it's quite right that the parents should be hauled in front of the dock, in front of a jury, just as they are in America when these lunatics go out with guns and shoot up their classmates. It's happened twice recently that the parents of the kids in question have actually gone to jail as a result of basically what do they call it, aggravated manslaughter, which is only right. But yeah, politicians, there should be at least it can be simple. It can be simple, but it needs to just that they know the system, that they know how Parliament works, they know how voting works, they know how it goes back and forth between the House of Lords and the House of Commons. Just basics, the basics of Parliament, the basics of being an MP. What is expected of you as an MP? If you be dealing with constituents, what will you say to these constituents? But unfortunately, and Labour are guilty of this as well, it is very much not what you know, not necessarily who you know, but what you know about who you know. Hey, wink, wink, if you know what I mean. It is a bit of a club, and, we can talk about candidates, good candidates who were put forward for certain constituencies who were ignored because in the constituency meeting where they decided who they were going to select to be their candidate, the one of the candidates got all their mates to turn up. And you only needed 9 votes to decide who the candidate was going to be. And if you're on a safe Labour seat, then, that's it. Those 9 people have handed a seat in the House of Commons to this person who had literally 9 of his mates or her mates turn up and vote. Not the best way of selecting candidates. And I think there should be a few more checks and balances, let's say, across the board for all political parties and who they put forward as candidates. You bring an idiot test to vote. Guess what happens when the Tories get back in? Parenting is a full-time job. Parenting is a full-time job. If Trump wins, I'll donate £10 super chat, and I'm 80-20 convinced I'll have a tenner remain in my account. Thank you very much for the £10 super chat. Ben, I don't know if it'll take the edge off if he wins. I'm going to be absolutely distraught if he wins. But it looks very probable now. I was really hoping for a big surge for Kamala. I was hoping by this time she would be 7 points ahead in some of those swing states, but she's not. And Pennsylvania is the path to the White House, and she's 1% ahead in the poll of polls, like the aggregate polls. She is 1% ahead, and that is within the margin of error. So Trump could easily win Pennsylvania straight up, and as soon as he's done that, he's got the keys to the White House. And even if he doesn't win, he has people on his side who will muddy the waters and make sure that he does get in no matter what. Phil talked today how he was told by Lady Leadership that he could be the PMP in Scunthorpe. Stephanie Wilson, people who are aware and those who have water, food and shelter are looking into the animals. They just don't get onto the news. BUFU says, good on you. At least you stood for what you believe. I might have to at least attempt MP. It's one of those jobs on my job search agreement. Lol. Jenny says, each area should elect folk who the locals know, who lives in the area and knows what locals need. Yeah. I mean, there is a problem where the quality of politicians is such that if there is a very good politician, like I think Jonathan, what's his name? Jonathan Thingy Ashton. Fuck. I've got his name now. He was a Labour MP who didn't get in this election. And Jonathan Ashford? I'm just making that up. No, I've forgotten his name. Bloody hell. I should have ended the show already. No, but if I did end the show already, I wouldn't have got this £10 super chat from Optimistic Nihilist. Nihilist. Thank you very much. The Tories trialled an open primary system that allowed the public to elect MP candidates for their party. And the journalist Ian Dunt said, because it was so successful, they buried the project. primaries would be a good start. But yeah, I do think that there should be a test, like, sit down test. Like, do you know what to do in these situations? Just like you have your theory test before you go drive a car, which is a lot less dangerous, really, in the whole scheme of things, than allowing a lunatic to be in number 10. Any thoughts on Trump's fascist rally at MSG's later this month, repeating the one in 1939? Yes, I think he's America's Hitler, which is what his vice president's candidate, J.D. Vance, described him as. I mean, he is. He is going to destroy America and destroy the Western world single-handedly with his plan, his Project 2025, which he occasionally tries to distance himself from, and then he forgets that he's supposed to distance himself from it, and then he starts quoting things from the Project 2025 manual, the playbook, which is published, and anyone can read it, and yeah, it's really grim. They're going to get rid of FEMA. So when a hurricane like this happens in Florida or North Carolina, there's going to be no one from the federal government going to help. It's going to be left up to the states to help themselves. Oh, yes. FEMA's going to be privatized, I think. And yeah, the Department of Justice. Oh, it's just. Viv says, bye all. Thanks, Graham. I'm keeping optimistic, trying. Yeah, I'm. You know what? I'm hoping for the best, but I'm planning for the worst. Civil Smith School of Catering says, plumped up. What? Anyway, I won't do the papers because there's not much in there. That's particularly interesting today, and I've also gone over time. So I'll be back at 1 o'clock for the agenda, where Phil and I will be discussing the Tory leadership contest and other shit. So please join us for that. And until then, I will say thank you very much for watching. Oh, join us for the Politics Social. If you can't make the one at 1, we'll be doing the Politics Social at 9:30 tonight. Just having a bit of a chat over a beer or two about what's going on in Britain and around the world. And yeah, bit irreverent, But I like irreverence. I like making fun of what's happening because you got to laugh. There's other more serious politics channels on this platform that you could listen to or watch. That's fine. But if you want something to take the edge off, then please join us on here on Politics Social at 1 o'clock and 9:30 tonight. And until then, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for the super chats. And until next time, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.